Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing okay.
Is it Box Day for you yet?
Nope. But don't forget, kids, after the fireworks, leave out cookies and milk for Captain America.
I don't know. Captain America seems to eat healthier than cookies and milk.
There is nothing more American than cookies and milk.
Wrong.
And you're communist if you say otherwise.
Wrong.
Commie.
I leave out apple pie and milk for Captain America.
Nope. That's if you're big into Chevrolets. And I've never, ever seen you drive a Chevy.
You don't remember your comics, do you?
Nor have I seen you ever share pie. So just, who are you, this so-called Strode? What'd you do with the real Cory?
You have never read Captain America comics, have you?
One doesn't read Captain America comics. You envelop them. You enjoy them. You live vicariously through them.
There was a story where Captain America went to a diner, and the guy running the diner treated him like he'd been there, all the time. And Cap said,
Right, already. Come on, get on with the plot.
Captain America said, I'll have the usual.
Could have dropped a spoiler here. Now some guy's going to read this and go, oh man, that rat bastard Strode ruined it for me.
So
ruined it.
What did the guy owning the diner give Captain America for his usual?
A piece of his mind via Fox News.
Wrong, a piece of apple pie.
Oh, no such thing.
Sorry.
Nope.
It's canon.
You're a communist, Cory.
Well, that has nothing to do with it.
You're probably a couple other ists too, but we won't deal with that.
There's nothing wrong with being a communist as long as, you use it in the right way.
Does that even mean anything nowadays?
Yes, I use open office. No one owns it. It's free for everybody. That's communism.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean the same. If I call my kid, you're being a communist, does it mean anything?
Well, if it's Holly, she is a communist.
It's meaningless.
How about socialist? That's still
no.
An
That's
insult,
only
right?
if you're trying to, tell somebody that you don't want your tax dollars being paid for something that you might directly benefit from. The thought of other people getting something that you don't, even though you could get it, it's infuriating. Therefore, you're a socialist.
So,
although we have one of our old customers lives over in Norway, and she loves it.
Yeah, she's never coming back.
I know.
Well, since this is dropping after 4th of July, what are you doing on 4th of July?
I'm home.
You doing what?
I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. We'll have to wait till next week and find out.
You don't have plans?
Nope.
Because we have plans for the night before,
Nope.
Yeah, we do.
We do?
Yeah.
What's that?
I have the night off. I'm going to a movie. I invited you.
Yeah, but I might have already seen the movie you want to go to.
So?
I don't want to go again.
Fine, be that way. I went and saw movies with you that I'd seen already.
Which is?
Infinity War.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
So how many times have you seen it?
Just twice.
Cool.
And I've ordered it, so it'll show up on my doorstep the day it's released in home video.
But not at Toys R Us.
Nope.
Damn you, Thanos!
I did not get to Toys R Us for any of the closing ceremonies.
You didn't miss much. I went in the final week. I think if you got there the day they went 70% off, you may have been able to score some cool stuff. But when I got there, I swear the place was no bigger than my maybe a third of my shop. You're talking maybe there was 1,000 square feet out of 50,000 square feet that had merchandise. Everything else was red taped off and just empty displays. So I kind of wandered around, looked for stuff, and I'm like, I had bought stuff already that I was interested in. But so I missed out on the Switch. But I imagine right now toy collectors everywhere are having a tough time on eBay because everybody got the same thing and they're waiting for that big push of product to work its way through. So if you suddenly found yourself, hey, I got these toys that are worth $50 a piece. Well, everybody who got it at Toys R Us for $5 now it's worth $10 a piece. So your choice is you either adjust your price, maybe take a loss or just sit on it and let the glut of toys make its way through the market.
One of the things that I heard were, I can't tell you how many of the people I know on the Facebooks went in during the last week and just bought a whole bunch of toys to donate.
Yeah,
because they figured their dollars would go a lot further.
There were people doing that. There was one group was buying up this weird video game. I actually had one. I was checking on the price, and then I realized, A, I'm never going to play it. B, I'd probably give it to the art auction next year at the SpringCon. Although by that time this game might become obsolete, so I just gave it to him. But yeah, it was. There were still a lot of people wandering through. Just not a lot to pick from.
And we did get sad news over the weekend.
Yeah.
Writer, raconteur, bon vivant, and occasional comic book fan, Harlan Ellison passed away over the weekend. I did not know he was in ill health for quite a while, I guess. And had been bedridden for, I've heard, anywhere from the last 2 years to the last 6 months. So. And Harlan Ellison was one of those writers who, whenever a new book of his came out, I got it immediately. So,
but oddly enough, it's hard to find his books in the bookstores.
Yes, and there are a few reasons for that. One is that he zealously guards his rights, to the point where there are a lot of magazines from the 50s and 60s that have gone public domain, and a couple of my friends were saying, oh, you know, I went out to the Internet Archive where they keep all the public domain stuff, and there are magazines that say they have a Harlan Ellison story on the cover, but when you open it up, the Harlan Ellison story's not there, and it's because he kept the copyrights to all his short stories. He only granted a first printing when he would sell it to magazines. And then when he would gather them together as books, he kept the copyright on them. He was very, very mindful of that, to the point where I remember in the early 90s, White Wolf, which was also a gaming publisher, but they published books, were going to do the complete Harlan Ellison. And they only got a few done before they closed up shop and never explained why.
Yeah, I remember picking those up. I remember listening to him talk about why a lot of his books weren't in print. And he just said the problem is that his writings, they just, I'm not trying to figure out how he said it, but he was describing, Cory, where's the number one bookseller in the world?
Amazon now.
But no, there was one that's even bigger.
Oh, airports.
One specifically.
I don't know.
Chicago O'Hara.
Oh, yes.
He said that, and this is before Amazon, was the number one seller of books. Now, how long did you have to sell a book before it was pulled and something more popular was put in its place?
I believe it was 3 hours, because that's how long it took the guy with the books to go around the
Three-
airport.
3 to 4 hours. And he said that's not the type of competition he dealt with, you know. He said it was not even worth putting your books out for that type of thing. And of course, since he owned the copyright, like you said, he could do that. Now, let me ask you, Kray, what was the first thing you recall that was distinctly either written or influenced by Harlan Ellison?
Now, the first thing I recall was picking up a paperback book that had the story A Boy and His Dog in it. But I had seen Harlan Ellison stuff before because I had watched Star Trek, and I watched the City on the Edge of Forever, which was written by Harlan. But I remember picking up that book of short stories, and I was really into science fiction short stories at the time, and that one just kind of blew me away. There were a few where, you know, Isaac Asimov, oh, these are good. You know, a few other authors. There were two authors that just grabbed me, and it was Ray Bradbury and Harlan Ellison. And I just devoured that stuff all through high school. Anytime I saw a book by them, I was just all over it. Joe, what about you?
Well, you mentioned mine, The City on the Edge of Forever. And I cannot describe how much it blew my 8-year-old mind to see that happen. Because if you recall at the end, Edith Keeler had to die. And I was like, wow, compared to the pablum that most of us got exposed to via Saturday morning cartoon, that was pretty heady stuff. And I remember the name Harlan Ellison. Fast forward a few years when my friends and I would hop on the bus and we go from the St. Paul all the way over to Uptown to the Uptown Theater, where they worked as a revival theater. And one of the movies that was playing was A Boy and His Dog. And of course, I had no idea what it was. Boy and His Dog, of course, was, I think, either one of the first, if not the first, that Don Johnson was in. And again, another mind-blowing trip for a pre-high schooler to see a movie like this, because it was not the happiest of endings, although it was a pretty cool ending, and we were all pretty gabbing about it the whole time. I do have an unopened VHS tape of it, and I'm not even sure if it's available on DVD, although
Yes,
I would imagine it is.
It's available through Shout Factory, and if you have Roku, you can add the Shout Factory app. The movie's available with director commentary.
Now, I think the one that actually got me cemented in, like you said, if I see now anything Harlan Ellison, I tend to pick it up. And of course, we're spoiled because we got Dreamhaven Books in Dickeytown, who Greg has done a fastidious job. Am I saying that? No, I'm not saying that right. Anyway, he's done a hell of a job keeping all of Harlison's stuff in stock. And so if you're looking for a Harlan Ellison book, if Greg doesn't have it, it's probably out of print, and he still might even have it. But Cory, do you remember Detective Comics 567?
Yes, and I've just read a recent story behind that comic. But that was actually the last thing that Julie Schwartz edited at DC.
The Night of Thanks but No Thanks. And a brief synopsis: Batman attempts to go into action on a night when he really should have stayed in bed because during his nightly patrol, all he comes across are situations that, despite initial appearances, involve no criminal activity. For this reason, his patrol ends up early, and all he can do is complain to the situation to Alfred. And there's one where he's flying overhead in his bat rope, and he sees some just huge, big thug throw a piece of paper on the ground, and he lands by it. Hey, don't you know we have littering laws? And the guy's, oh my gosh, you are so certain I shall quickly pick this up, and he very eloquently puts it in there. Thank you for what you do in perceiving our streets. Just one of the most amazing stories done in one that Harlan Ellison did. And it was a promise to Julius Schwartz, and it's dedicated to him. And it's pretty continuity light. It could be either pre-crisis or post-crisis or maybe even New 52. Now, what you said, you had a story on that.
Yes. What it was, Julie Schwartz, we've talked in the past, Julie Schwartz actually was an editor on Batman before they moved him over to Superman. And in 1970 or 71, stories kind of differ, he and Harlan would talk all the time because they were both science fiction guys. Julie was a science fiction agent. Harlan came up through science fiction fanzines of all things. And they went to conventions a lot together, and they were kind of old pals. And Julie kind of twisted his arm to do a Batman story. And finally Harlan, to get him to quit asking, said, fine, I'll do a Batman story. That was in 71. And Harlan, who was notoriously bad with deadlines, didn't deliver, and then Julie was moved over to Superman, and he didn't deliver. And they were getting ready to give Julie Schwartz some award at the San Diego Comic-Con, back when it was only like 4,000 or 5,000 people. So Harlan knew about the award, and actually contacted Mark Evanier, who writes about it on his blog, and says, yeah, I want to show up, but I want to surprise Julie. I'm going to bring him the story I promised. So they're at San Diego, and Harlan is hiding at this award ceremony. And Julie Schwartz gives his speech, and he said, and Everybody delivered their work except for one guy. There's one guy who still hasn't made his deadline. And Harlan Ellison popped out from behind a post or whatever with an envelope in hand, and he said, I have the story right here. And he walks up and hands it to Julie Schwartz. And they finish the ceremony, and they shake hands and everything. And then after the ceremony's over, Julie opens the envelope. And Harlan's going, well, I just got to start on it. I just have a little bit more work to do. Wait to open it. So he waits until, I guess he's either with friends or flying back, and he opens the envelope, and all there is the title on one page. And Harlan actually finally delivered it when Julie said he was retiring. Harlan did a few comics. He did 1, 2, 3, 3.5 at Marvel. Do you know what they are, Joe? Does Joe know?
One of them, there were 2 Hulk ones. One of them where Hulk got shrunk down and went into, I don't know, did they call it the microverse then?
No.
Where he met, what's her, I can't remember the name of the woman. Jarella. And there was another Hulk story that was closer to an adaptation of one of his own stories. Matter of fact, people were to the point where they read it, they're like, hey, wait a minute, this reads a lot like one of Harlan Ellison's stories. And in fact, it was. It just, what had happened, Marvel forgot to credit Harlan Ellison for the inspiration. And I believe it was Hulk 286 in a short story called Hero. Bill Mantle wrote it, but he wrote it, pretty much based off Harlan's story Soldier. And then there was a little yellow apology that appeared in the following month saying, sorry, this readers thought that Hero and Hulk 286 bore a very strong resemblance to Harlan Ellison's short story and teleplay Soldier. They were right. Writer Bill Mantlo did indeed adapt Harlan's philosophical thriller to Hulk use. And they forgot to...
well, that's not entirely true.
Well, that's what Shooter said.
Basically, Harlan called up and said, you fuckers stole my story. You better pay me for it. Bill Mantlo at the time was writing 3 or 4 books, and he became kind of notorious in some corners for stealing basic plot outlines from other stories. So it was a case of Harlan calling up and saying, you fuckers better pay me or I'm suing the shit out of you, which he was known to do.
But he also asked for not only payment for damages, but he settled for the same money that Bill Pitt was paid to write, and I say that with quotation mark, the script. He got an acknowledgement, plus a lifetime subscription to everything ever published by Marvel.
Yeah, that's right.
To which somebody in the CBR Comic Book Resources questioned, I wonder if Ellison lost that lifetime subscription when Marvel went through bankruptcy.
From what I hear, he did not, because he was kind of notorious for calling up both DC and Marvel and saying, where the fuck are my comps?
Hey, my comps.
He also did an Avengers story. Not just the first part of the Jarella story, but he did a Avengers story, 5 Dooms Against Tomorrow. And the only other thing he did at Marvel was he did a couple of pages of the Heroes for Hope jam book that they did during the 80s to raise money for African famine relief. He had a series at Dark Horse called Dream Corridor.
Dream Corridor, yes.
Where they adapted stories of his. There were also adaptations of his work.
They're not tremendously expensive unless you go for the limited edition hardcover book that's signed and numbered. And you can buy them in graphic novels as well. But they're fun stories to look up because he got other writers involved. He got artists like John Byrne, Tom Sultan, David Lafrem, Mike Deodato Jr. to all do this. It's a shame it only lasted 5 episodes. Now, do you remember what Harlan did as a tie-in to this series?
I know that he did introductions to the stories.
No, I'm talking more publicity.
Wasn't that when he was doing it on the Sci-Fi Channel?
Well, no, he actually had an appearance on, I believe it was the Late Show with Tom Snyder,
Oh, okay.
and he was supposed to wear a Dark Horse T-shirt that had the Legends logo as well as the comic book shop locator service number, so that people who wanted his book could get it. Do you think Harlan wore the shirt?
Of course not.
Oh, hell no. He did pick it up and show it, both sides, because he said, we're doing this book. I'm supposed to be promoting it, and just, go to a comic shop and buy it. That was pretty much it. And then him and Tom talked to it, whatever. So that was actually kind of an interesting little tie-in that happened while I had Hot Comics. But have you ever met Harlan Ellison or seen him live?
I have neither.
I saw him 2 times. Both times, I never really went up to get an autograph because I was scared to death in case I got on the wrong end of Harlan. And, I was just happy to see him. The first time, I can't remember if it was a retailer show, but I know I sat in on maybe it was just one of the little Chicago cons, but I sat in on, he was doing a panel, and he was talking about just taking information from the audience. And then later he went to do a signing, and as he walked by, he's really small guy.
I think he's 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah, and he had his entourage with him, but I'm pretty sure from what I know of Harlan, he didn't need his entourage. But I did, again, I went up and I wanted to get in line to go see him, but the problem is that the line was huge. Instead, Pat and I actually ran into Walter Koenig and actually had a quick picture with him and got to talk to him. So that was kind of cool. The second time I was at the 1994 Chicago Comic-Con, and I had gone there because Harlan Ellison, well, first of all, it was a Chicago Con. Second of all,
back when the Chicago Con meant something.
It meant something. And Harlan was the guest of honor. What they did is every year at the show, they'd have a guest of honor. And I, along with, I think, 2 of my subscribers at the shop, went to see this. It was a dinner. It was a roast. It was actually kind of a lot of fun. Talked to different people. I do still have the book that he did. I did not go to get him signed. I probably should have. But so I actually got to see him in person twice. And if you really want to get a grasp for it, I know I saw like at Uncle Hugo's, they had discs of him speaking. And I don't know if they're still around or not, but just a phenomenal guy to listen to as well. And again, kind of regrets I never really got up the balls to go up and actually talk to him. But I do have some autograph stuff of his. So a lot of it's on the eBays. Speaking of that, the Chronicles of the Boy and His Dog, it's Vic and Blood. And it's the full story because Harlan wrote it and Richard Corbin drew it. And
actually, Harlan wrote the short stories. They were adapted by Jan Strand.
Yep.
And then drawn by Corbin.
I'm trying to find who did it. NBM.
Yeah.
So, and the story actually goes a little bit farther than the movie does.
Yes, it adapts the sequel story, Blood's a Rover, which, those 2 stories together, they'll tear you up.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spoil it, even though, the stories are 40 years old. But the end of A Boy and His Dog seems a little flippant and mean. But Blood's a Rover shows the cost of what happened at the end of A Boy and His Dog. And it's so well done and so dark that anybody who tells me that, A Boy and His Dog, the ending's just, cruel, and I said, you haven't read the whole thing yet. Because one of the things that I like about Harlan's stuff is in his short stories, he always goes for the gut punch. But every so often, he's willing to draw that out and show the consequences of the actions involved. And it's one of the things I think that separates a good author from a great author is a good author will tell you the story. A great author will let you know what the consequences are for the things that happen in the story. That it's not, nothing is, everything is shades of gray. Nothing is black and white. Speaking of shades of gray, Joe, I don't know how many people on your Facebook page or in blogs you read posted about Harlan, but most of the people would talk about both the good and bad of him. To the point where even Mark Evanier kind of said in his obit, Harlan was a great friend, but I'm kind of glad I haven't been around him much in the last 10 years. And when I was a teenager, hearing some of the stories about the stuff he did, I would go, oh, cool. But now that I'm an adult, I would go, holy shit, why wasn't this guy in jail? The one story that I remember from being a teenager, he told endlessly, was when somebody at Irwin Allen Productions altered his script for A Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And Harlan loved to tell the story about how when he found out who the executive was in the meeting, he jumped up on the table, ran down the table, and tackled the guy. Because how dare he change my words? Well, what Harlan doesn't talk about is how that he basically broke the guy's hip and had to pay a whole lot of money for that outburst. And made it very, very hard for him to continue to make money in TV. And there's a reason he only did one story for Star Trek. Because he was such a gigantic pain in the ass to work with.
I know we've talked about this in the past because, Harlan brought out his script in a book.
Yes.
I can't remember the title of it. And even I had to admit, after reading the script, as brilliant as it was not Star Trek. I mean, Kirk and Spock were not acting like Kirk and Spock.
Right.
Which I think is one of the problems that I don't believe Harlan necessarily appreciated because, first of all, they're not your characters. You have to write them the way they were. But again, I think Roddenberry was so jazzed to have Harlan on a Star Trek that they refused to, take his name off and use his, what was it, Cordwainer Bird?
Yep, Cordwainer Bird.
When he had something that he was involved with that he didn't want to take credit for. I know Harlan was a creative consultant on Babylon 5. Even to the point where there was a couple cameos, and they had one C plot where when they had to try to reboot the computer for the station, the AI that was previous there popped up, and it happened to run off the voice of Harlan Ellison, which was really funny. But that's a little different because if you really care, you can go into that whole one series of books that Straczynski released talking in minutia about how Babylon 5 was done and how Harlan was involved with it.
And
he never did deliver the script though.
No.
For one of the shows. So.
And there are other professionals, science fiction professionals, comic professionals, who had horror stories about dealing with him. And there are some stories that are kind of famous, like at the one of the science fiction conventions about almost 15 years ago now. He went up during the award ceremony and basically grabbed the boobs of the woman who was the MC, and other things he did. So there's a lot of people who are like, yep, Harlan was brilliant, and there are other people who are like, Harlan was an asshole. And the truth is, both are true. So my question for this episode, Joe, if you find out that someone is a complete jerk, can you still enjoy their work?
Well, let's just put it this way. Are we talking, let's use degrees. Are we talking like Chuck Dixon? He did the, what's it called, Cops for Marvel?
Yeah.
Or are we talking like Chris Benoit equal WWE?
Well, I think we should talk.
Where
we need to talk about where the line is.
Yeah, because I mean, there's even some other ones like The creator of Ant sold it. He's a felon. I think he sold the rights to Ant to Eric Larson of Savage Dragon, which Eric's now using the character because it's his. He bought it. Then there was the creator of Prime, who isn't he involved in some?
Yep, Gerard Jones, child
Yeah.
porn. He pled guilty.
And pretty much with that, I guess we'll never see Prime appear in the Marvel universe. So yeah, I guess it's a degree. I mean, for Harlan Ellison, since I didn't know him personally and I was never on the attack or on the receiving end of one of his attacks, I guess I can enjoy his work without any problem.
And I think there's also one of the things that because I'm a lefty, I don't make any bones about it. I'm a lefty. But there are times when the people on my side kind of do this retroactive thing. Yeah, Isaac Asimov was well known for being a dirty old man, to the point where in the 70s he put out joke books. There was The Sensuous Man, The Sensuous Woman. He put out one, The Sensuous Dirty Old Man. And he often made, jokes about women in the 60s and 70s when he was at convention appearances. Because, it was, I'm not going to say it was okay, but it wasn't frowned on.
Julia Schwartz going through a similar revival, of the dirty old man syndrome, and people are like, well, can you enjoy the works he did after what he had done? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've learned things about Julie Schwartz and stuff he did to comic creators where it's like, oh, ick, just ick. But does that mean that I can't read any of the books he edited? Or, Roman Polanski made one of the greatest movies of all time. Chinatown. Chinatown is one of the greatest movies of all time. But he also was involved in raping an underage girl. Do you never watch that movie again? I mean, he won't even come back to the U.S. because he knows the minute he shows up, he's going to jail. That's on one end of the extreme. Then there are other, like John Byrne, well known for being a dick to people at conventions. Insulting the fans, calling them names. If you brought up a reprint to be autographed, he'd pull out a rubber stamp and stamp it. He refused to autograph it because, I didn't get paid. It's a reprint. Or, he won't, if you say the word Marvel rather than M-L, he'll boot you out of his forum or, stuff like that. Or, there are other comic creators who we've watched do dickish things. For me, I think the line is when their dickish behavior starts to show up in the work. Or, like Chris Benoit, the wrestler Chris Benoit, his matches were fantastic, but he killed his wife and kid. I just can't even bring myself to watch him. It's not a moral, I refuse to. It's more, I've got all this stuff. I think I just won't watch that. I'll skip this match.
And later on, I guess they found out he was suffering from the same stuff that NFL players. His brain was essentially Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
It's like, when do you go from... I know we've heard of NFL players killing themselves, but, this... Again, like you said, it's just... I don't know where to draw the... I guess that, to me, is a line right there. If you hurt somebody else... It's one thing to be obnoxious with your own opinions and that. I mean, I wouldn't purposely avoid a Chuck Dixon book or even Van Schreier book. But, again, it depends on what they're doing, too. I'm more interested in, are you going to entertain me? Because a lot of that really is beyond your control. I mean, we had no control over who slept with who or who's saying what. And if you decide you want to boycott them, again, that's your choice. But I'm kind of like, some of the things I wrote that Dixon has written, I'm like, I enjoy this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, I'm sure if I was a writer, as liberal as I am, I'd see him go, I gotta listen or nothing. Ryder writes, he's too liberal. I guess I just don't do that.
I don't either unless it bleeds into their work. And there are people who their politics basically becomes what they're doing. They shove politics into stories even where it doesn't fit. You know, if you're doing a story about the Punisher, politics are going to play a part because he's a vigilante, and you're doing a story based on his point of view. I've actually read a lot of stuff from Gary Conway, who didn't do a lot of Punisher stories, but he said the thing about the Punisher was we never saw him as the character like in Death Wish, where those 70s vigilante movies, most of their victims were foreign or black. And he said that he just had basic, run-of-the-mill generic criminals. And the stories were about a man obsessed, rather than Death Wish, which is about, these foreigners are ruining our country. And there are some writers who did veer into that at times. And those Punisher stories, you read them now, and they're just painful. You can't read them. Because they're so just steeped in that. But as someone who likes old comics and old movies, I have to deal with that from time to time. Will Eisner, read those spirit stories, and oh gosh, Ebony is one of the most offensive racial stereotypes you'll ever read.
I don't see you watching any Fatty Arbuckle movies.
I do. But I know what they
said
are.
I didn't see you doing it. He does it, sleeps under the sink. Hey, I'm going to watch it now.
Actually, if you watch Harold Lloyd movies, you're watching Fatty Arbuckle, because in Harold Lloyd's early career, he was Fatty Arbuckle's sidekick. I'm a huge fan of Harold Lloyd. Huge fan of Harold Lloyd. And really, if you're going to watch silent comedies before like 1925, Fatty Arbuckle was the biggest star in Hollywood. Joe, when I say silent movie comedian, who do you think of first?
Well, Charlie Chaplin, of course.
Chaplin started working with Fatty Arbuckle. I mean, Hal Roach was the studio head who did all of those. I knew an artist once who would excuse their bad behavior by saying, well, Picasso was a jerk and Picasso abused people, so it's okay if an artist does it. And boy, did they get mad when I said, you're nowhere near as good as Picasso. And there's something to that. You've got to have enormous talent to get away with being that big a jerk. How many times have we heard about an actor or somebody who, they got a big head, they're a pain in the ass, and yet there are other people who get away with being a gigantic pain in the ass because they're more popular. Look at the antics of The Who or Led Zeppelin. Underage groupies, trashing hotel rooms, driving cars through hotels into pools, tossing TVs through 5th story and 20-story windows. And you look at those stories and you go, yeah, man, they're living the rock and roll lifestyle. But if you had to deal with that, you'd be, oh my God, what a bunch of assholes. And a lot of the stories about, I think a lot of the reason people will complain about Todd McFarlane isn't as much his art as when he became famous. Here's this 23-year-old guy who has millions of dollars. He kind of became a jerk.
Well, you see, I would counter with the other story. When we were at the Image tent that Sunday, all going in, he stayed at the front of the tent and shook everybody's hand and thanked them for being there. And everybody else, Todd basically held court while waiting for everybody else to come back from breakfast.
Yeah.
So it's also a matter of you got one chance to meet somebody. If you happen to catch them on an off day, Or, he didn't want to sign your autograph while he was busy taking a leak at the urinal. Oh, he's a jerk. He wouldn't even. So, yeah, you always hear these stories where, like, well, he was a jerk to me. It doesn't mean he was a jerk to everybody.
Yeah.
And you make the mistake of believing the jerk story. It's much easier to believe the guy's an asshole than it is to. No, he isn't. He just caught him on a bad day or something,
He had a bad day. One of the things I work, HR calls. We take calls. And one of the things we train people is, look, when they're calling, it's not about you. You don't know what happened before they called. I had a person call earlier today, and, I have to ask certain things, to verify your identity. And on the third one, she was like, oh my God, is this ever going to stop? Ma'am, I'm sorry, but these are the things that the company asks me to do. And then I would ask, she would say, well, what about this? Like, well, I need a little more information. Jesus, do you people know anything? And after she calmed down a little bit, it's, well, her 16-year-old just told her that she was pregnant, and she was checking to see if the medical coverage would cover it, what are they going to do to get medical coverage for the grandchild, all of this. But if I wouldn't have, stayed patient and been on the phone for that, I would have just kind of been, very brusque and bum, 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 and then hang up the phone and go, what an asshole. Rather than, this person just got news that freaked them out. And there have been a few times at our convention where creators have gotten news that has not been good. And a lot of times they'll finish up their sketches and be as polite as they can. But there are a couple of stories I heard where it's like, why didn't they just go home? Well, because they're professionals. There are other stories where we've had comic pros who show up and kind of they act like they're put out just to be there. Like it's such a pain in the ass to show up. Well, then don't show up. For me, the line is when their asshole behavior either starts hurting people or it infests their work. And it's, like John Byrne. We all heard that John Byrne was an asshole in the 80s. And there for a while, he would write letters to the Comic Buyer's Guide and in interviews. He'd go, oh, there are all these stories about how I'm rude and obnoxious, and they're just not true. Well, and it became every convention had that story. And for me, I was fine until it started bleeding into his work, where it's, all right, in this story, I'm going to undo everything Roy Thomas and Steve Englehart did, because fuck Roy Thomas and Steve Englehart. And it's, dude. Or I'm going to undo what Chris Claremont did, because Chris Claremont's a meanie. And it's, dude, tell a story. Don't waste all your time undoing stuff that other people have done. Stop it. Until now, it's like, John Byrne's doing it. I don't care. Everything he's going to do is going to be him throwing a fit. So I don't care. And I think that's why he works on Star Trek stuff, because Roy Thomas, Steve Englehart, and Chris Claremont didn't work on Star Trek. And not to give any names, but Joe, are there comic creators who, because of their behavior, you just go, I'm not interested?
Not really. Generally, it's almost, I only, when I look at creators that I like, that I want to follow, and then after that, you got that little description in Diamond Comics to try to get my attention. For example, the book The Villain that was coming out, I think Neil Adams was involved with it. 4-issue miniseries. Well, they just canceled 2, 3, and 4 today.
What a shock.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. So.
And I think the last thing on this topic I want to bring up, one of the things that happened.
Actually, how about you? How about you? Are there any creators that you draw the line at because of whatever they do outside of comics?
Well, I mentioned John Byrne.
Yeah.
I won't touch anything he does in Marvel or DC because it's just, I'm going to undo what other people have done. I don't care.
He's doing that photo thing for IDW.
Yeah, that's all he's doing now, though. But even his Wonder Woman was like, I'm going to screw over Roy Thomas for all the work he did on After Crisis. It's like, dude, did Roy Thomas piss in your cornflakes or something? There are a few artists who are gigantic pains in the ass that I don't want to give any money to. But conversely, there are some people whose work I didn't much care for, and after I met them, it was like, oh, I'm buying their stuff because they're such cool guys. Ron Friends. I didn't much care for his work either way until he came to the Minnesota convention, and I got to sit down and spend time with them, and that was back when we all got together at a restaurant after the convention, and I got sat next to him, and we started talking Kirby and Ditko. And before that, I was like, Ron Friends, I guess he's okay. And after that, it's like, hey, you know, Ron Friends is a great guy. I'm going to buy his work. Tom Lyle, same thing. I liked his work, but after I met him, it's like, he's a really cool guy. I'm buying his stuff. And I think that's something that I don't know if you can get that experience at conventions anymore. Where you meet somebody who you don't know that well, and then you go, oh, wow, he's so cool, I'm buying his stuff. I know that Brian Wilson, who used to work with the convention, was like that. If he made friends with you, he would come into your shop and say, and he would have these books, and he was like, you know, I don't really like these, but I met this guy, and I like him, so I'm going to support him.
Yeah, I had things like that too. There was a couple. One of the other guys at the con, and I'll probably think of his name later. He would buy almost everything until something set him off, and then he'd come in and sell it all back. It didn't matter who it was.
Oh yeah, Pat McDonough.
Yeah. He did it with Joe Linsner. He did it with the guys who wrote Scud. Did it with I can't think of this superhero group in the beginning of previews. Let me dig that up. Good Gold Diggers, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
It's like on an impossible number that people are like, really?
Oh yeah,
You've done
Gold
over
Diggers.
200? Yeah.
From
Yeah, they were
Antarctic
good.
Press.
Yeah, they were going to come to a con, and I think they ended up with road trouble and never made it. And then, I don't like them anymore. Which is fine. You know, I just sold the comic anyways.
I never did anything like that. But,
well, you know, when you're, at the time he was single with no girlfriend, no kids, you know, he could just pretty much blow his money on whatever he wanted.
And
I was there to help him out.
He was a big high muckety muck at 3M too.
Yeah, they liked him.
So he wasn't getting paid minimum wage. Well, you know who else isn't getting paid minimum wage, Joe?
Me.
Well, yeah, you're making good money working for the government.
No.
Well, you're making okay money.
Yeah, I'll go with okay.
But I was talking about these guys, our sponsors. That's right, here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network, we have ads, and our first sponsor is me. That's right, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. I have my first book out with Dangerous Dan Moore. It's the first 100 strips of our online web strip, Worldwide News, the story of the lowest rated cable news network. And you can get yourself a copy with commentary, with all sorts of extras, with signatures and everything. Just email Dan over at lordshadowflame@gmail.com. Our top sponsor, who's been with us since day one, is DreamHost. DreamHost.com. You need yourself a website, and DreamHost.com is the #1 web host in the whole known universe. Just head over to DreamHost.com, put in the code KRAYZ, KRAYZ, get $20 off your first year. How can you beat that? Our other sponsor is Graze, GRAZE.com. Healthy snacks for a healthy lifestyle. Just head over to Graze, put in the code CORYS3R5P. Your first and fifth box are free. You can get them weekly. You can get them bi-weekly. You can get them monthly. You just order a whole bunch of them. It's great stuff to keep you away from the vending machine at work. Now, if you would like to leave a comment for any of the podcasts that we do, we'd love those. Go ahead and email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, or you can call 952-856-0519. Operators are standing by Okay, it's just a place that we'll record your calls, but we'll play them on the air. We'll answer your questions. We love getting feedback. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. Suggest a topic. Be a guest. Send us your stuff. SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. If you would like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose radio shows, you can. Just email us at SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. Subject advertising. Thanks. And after we do the sponsors, we talk about the stuff that's coming up. Joe, did you know that I have 4th of July off all day?
I don't believe it.
Neither do I. Especially
Gotta
since I got an email earlier today. Cory, we have 3 open shifts tonight. Can you come in early?
Lousy bankers.
And then over the weekend, what was it? One staff said they had a family emergency, left, and then sent an email saying they're not working there anymore.
Yep. It's one hell of an emergency.
And then they twisted my arm to get me to do the Awake Overnight Saturday. And then as I'm getting ready to leave, 2 people called in sick. Is there any way you could stay? No.
No.
No. If I stay any longer, it's not safe for me to drive home. No. So, but I have 4th of July off, and I have most of the weekend after 4th of July off. So you head over to the YouTube page. We got all kinds of new stuff that'll be popping up there. And we've got other podcasts like these. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts. We've got Scrabbling Across the West with Dave Caffell and his lovely bride, Stephanie. They travel across the country playing musical gigs, and at night they sit down to play Scrabble and talk about their day at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. There's Novelcast over at novels.solitairerose.com, where I take the novels that I've written and turn them into audio podcasts. Currently, we are doing a novel called Do the Job, which is a murder mystery set in the world of 1980s professional wrestling. Then, over at badadvice.solitairerose.com, me, Cory Strode, and Wolfie B. Bad, along with Dan Moore, give bad advice to people who send in questions. That's bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is growing. Be there! You think NBC will get mad I used that?
A regular smorgasbord.
And we're probably going to get a whole bunch more Scrabbling Across the West because Dave and Stephanie have been traveling all over the place, including driving down to Texas.
They are out of control.
I'm not allowed in Texas anymore.
You shouldn't be.
They round up us liberals and put us in cages.
Yep. They hunt you for sport.
Darn right. And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he talks in detail about the Christmas ornaments his mother makes.
Yes.
It's, Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Well, okay, let's look and see what's sold. Cory, have you ever heard of the comic Rat Queens?
Yes. It is an image, I think it's like a fantasy series, right?
Well, let's see what Atomic Avenue says. A pack of booze-guzzling, death-dealing battle maidens for hire.
There you go.
And they're in the business of killing all God's creatures for profit. It's kind of a darkly comedic sass and sorcery series. And I had some, I believe Dana actually gave me these, and read them, didn't make the cut, so I put them on eBay. I sold a, talking about all the variant comics. If you're into Loot Crate, they have always their own version of certain books. And Cory, tell me who debuted in Brave and Bold number 28?
Wasn't that the Brave and the Bold 28? Wasn't that the Justice League?
You are correct. Give that man a dime. I sold my Peanuts collection that I had from Boom. We talked about Peanuts a number of ways back. And did you mention there's something coming up from, was it Dynamite or IDW? Peanuts collection book.
No, it's from Boom. Boom is doing a reprint of the Dell Peanuts. And I ordered that bad boy because it's a hardcover for $25.
Yeah, I'm just like, that was one of those that disappeared in our infamous crash. Yeah, Peanuts Dell Archive coming out in October, $25 for a 352-page hardcover. And it's not only by Boom, but the Charles M. Schulz Museum. So if you happen to be out in California, you could probably go to the museum. Or unless it got hit by fire. I don't know. There was something about that fire going on.
Think you could get it autographed?
Just as well as any other Harlan Ellison book you can get autographed. Sure.
There we go. Wait. Charles Schulz
Strawberry
is dead?
Shortcake #1. Marvel Monsters 5-comic set with Fing Fang Foom. And rounding it up, I sold a DC superhero stamp album.
Ooh.
1 through 5. That one, I don't remember where it came from, but it was kind of like a history thing where it talks about what's going on between, like right after World War II, and America had the New Deal, rebuilding America. So they're from 1930 to 39. And then there was one from 40 to 49. And of course, everyone had a specific sticker that came out. And I don't remember what years this came out in. But it was kind of an interesting set. I wasn't sure if I should put it in comics or stamps. And I put it in comics, it didn't sell, and I put it on stamps, and it sold pretty fast. So,
yay!
If you're looking for other cool things, go to my eBay's, Krayz. Mention you're a friend of the store, and you can, go ahead and have some fun. Yeah.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I talk about the old comics that have shown up on Marvel Unlimited, although sometimes I do. They've got Black Goliath 2 through 5 this week. But it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
I've only got one thing I'm freaking on. And I'm going to create a new section, or a new segment for our show. Are you ready, Cory?
Sure.
We're going to call it Hip Watch, as in, what the fuck is going on with my hips? I am in such pain when I try to walk or sit or even lay down. And I went to the doctor last week, and not the chiropractor, but an MD, and they looked at my x-rays from 2003 when I first found out I had rheumatoid arthritis to that particular day. And the MD looked at it and goes, yeah, I see bone spurts. I see where your cartilage is disappearing. I think I'm going to have to refer you to a orthopedic surgeon. So I get to see him. And as this podcast drops, it'll be the following week. So I got 2 weeks to hobble around work like a gimp and try to make the best of it. Sometimes I'm able to get up and walk fine. Other times, oh my God, who is shooting the barbed wire through my hips? Oh, how did Mick Jagger say it? What a drag it is getting old. So I've been actually doing a lot of research on hip replacements, and everybody's like, oh, it's easy. They pop them in and out. Ooh. However, the recovery could be 3 to 6 weeks, depending on your stamina. So who knows? We could have a podcast in the future where I'm high on oxygen. I don't know.
Woo.
So that's pretty much been consuming most of my freaking. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Joe, settle back.
I can't.
It's story time.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on. Oh, fuck, that hurts. Hang on. Let me turn on the. There we go. Oh,
so did you read the format email that I sent you?
I looked at it, but I will not admit that I read it.
All right. It's Harlan Ellison talking about someone being a jerk, making art. And then I'm stopping at Wal Mart on the way home to get those new 100-pagers.
Yep.
Now, first off, I don't care for the Wal Mart. I really don't care for Wal Mart. I've never had an enjoyable shopping experience at the Wal Mart, and today was no exception. So I go to the one in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, so that they can sue us. And, and I pull into the parking lot, and already I'm mad because people are just kind of stopping. Not to look for a parking place, not because there are people walking in front of them. They just kind of stop driving. You know, because you turn in, and then you go around, and there's the parking lot, and I come in, and I start to go around, and someone has stopped right there. And I don't know what they're doing, but they sit there for like, I don't know, over a full minute. And anytime I start to make a move that I'm going to turn around, they move, and then they stop moving. It took 5 minutes to park. And I don't park near the door. I park far away because I need the exercise. I'm a tubby bastard. So I'm already irritated by the fact that no one in the parking lot knows how to drive. And when you go into the Walmart, you know how at Target you go in and here are the carts and then here are the little baskets. Well, at the Walmart, you go in the doors, the carts, you have to walk through the people who are leaving because they've designed it so well. And I was just going to get these comics, so I didn't need the full cart. I just needed the carry cart. Nope, no carrying carts around. None of them. Nowhere. They've got the big, heavy-duty industrial carts, and then they have the carts that have a little thing on the top that you can put your fruits and veggies in, and then a big thing on the bottom. No carrying cart. Fine. I'll just carry shit. I don't care. And I'd heard that the DC Comics were with the collectibles, the Pokemon cards, the baseball cards, and all that, and they're near the front. I go to the front registers, and first off, there are three things that remind me of why I want nothing to do with the Walmart. First off, this is 5:30. The place is packed. Tons of people trying to check out. 2 lanes open. Then, when you go to Target, it's like, oh, here's a nice display, here's a nice display, here's this, here's that. With Walmart, you walk in, and it really feels like people brought in the stuff and just kind of gave up. Oh, here's fuck it, I'll just put it in the middle of the aisle. Oh, here's a big cardboard box full of crap here. Here, now you have to go into another aisle in order to go around this cardboard box full of crap. And then I'm looking for someone working in the store to let me know where things are. Good luck. Okay, the comics aren't anywhere by the door where people say they are. Maybe they're with the magazines. So I go to where the magazines are supposed to be. Nope, there's a wall there. They've walled that area off, and it's now for tires. Okay, I'm going to go look here. I look there. I start wandering. I finally get to the part where they have the books and the CDs and that, and I am immediately stopped by someone with a clipboard asking what my cable company is. They're trying to sell me cable service.
You should have said Solitaire Rose Productions.
It was like, I have your cable. Oh, well, let's see if you could get a better deal. I can't because I just got my better deal 6 months ago. Oh, well, I still just want to look at it. No, leave me alone. If you don't know where things are, I don't want to talk to you. I go to the electronics section. There's nobody there. Nobody there. Go to I wander. And I don't see an employee till I get all the way over to the food section. So I ask the employee, I have a picture of it on my phone. Here's the display. Here's what they look like. Do you know where these are? He hands me his cell phone and the Walmart website and says, look it up on here. I know they're not on the website. I'm asking if they're in the store. Oh, well, look it up on my phone. I tried to look it up on his phone. Of course, it's not there. He goes, I don't know. I have to get going, and I'm being paged. So I go to customer service because I'm stupid. And I wait in the customer service line, and thank goodness I have games on my phone because there were 4 people in front of me, and it took 15 minutes for them to get these people's returns all sorted out. I get up, I show the person, here, this is what I'm looking for. I know that it was delivered to stores over the weekend. Do you have it? I don't know. Is there any way for you to check? Not really. Do you have any idea where I could look? No. An hour I was in the Walmart. I left with 2 things, Joe. Cherry Cola Oreos and Fireworks Oreos. By the way, the Fireworks Oreos has Pop Rocks in it, so when you eat them, for like the next 2 minutes, you hear the Pop Rocks going off in your mouth. Did I get the 100-page comics? Nope. Am I ever going back to Walmart to look again? Nope. Fuck you, Walmart. Fuck you. Joe, what are you geeking on?
I read one omnibus.
A whole omnibus?
An omnibus, yeah. And it was even probably one, I don't know if you even have it. This was the Orion Omnibus by Walt Simonson.
No, I don't have that omnibus.
Yeah, no, this one I picked up mostly because it was Walt Simon, and I think I may have picked it up at Half Price Books. I don't remember. But it's all 25 issues of Walt Simonson's Orion, as well as other reprinted short stories. One of the things they did in this book is they had backup stories with some up-and-coming people who just, trying to give them a break in their industry. Guys like John Byrne, Frank Miller, Art Adams.
Yep, I remember those backup stories in there.
Just hacks. And it was kind of fun because I had just finished reading the back issue of this month, and I don't remember the number, but it was all about Jack Kirby's Fourth World. And they covered the story that happened before this and things that happened after this. And it just so happened I lucked out. I was in a slow part of the baggage area, and although my hips killed me every time I stood up to do anything, I was able to get enough of this read, and then I just came home and finished reading the rest of it. Oh, I highly recommend this. I mean, Walt Simonson did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, sales didn't do as well, so that's why they ended the series. But again, a fun omnibus, worth picking up. That was pretty much it. Like I said, other than just sloughing through life with two hips that are trying to jump out of my body and strangle me. Cory, what are you geeking on?
I am geeking on all sorts of things, Joe. The first thing I am geeking on is the fact that I have absolutely no self-control whatsoever. You know how I said that I did the wake overnight on Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
So I come home, I sleep for about 4 or 5 hours, and I get up, groggily go into the living room, and it's like, okay, I have a whole bunch of stuff I need to get done today. Oh, the new season of Glow started on Netflix. I'll watch one episode and then I'll get doing stuff. I watched all 10 episodes in a row, Joe. The first season was fantastic. The second season is even better. I love this show. If you have not watched Glow and you like wrestling in any way, shape, or form, stop what you're doing and go watch the first and second seasons. It's based on the gorgeous ladies of wrestling from the 80s, but it's not, a docudrama. It's fiction based on that. Mark Maron is unbelievably good to the point where I'm watching it and I'm going, I want to see Mark Maron play Stan Lee working at Marvel in the 60s and 70s. I want a TV series set in the Marvel bullpen in the 70s and 80s with Mark Maron playing Stan Lee. And the sad thing is, I was going to watch that for 4th of July because I have 4th of July off. Well, now I'll have to do other things because I already watched all 10 episodes. Box Day. I came home and there was a box of comics right on my doorstep. And when we were done, I have previews in my hand and I'm going to start doing research for next week's podcast by going through the previews. Ooh, all kinds of fun stuff in here. And I like when I get Box Day before a holiday. Let's see. Saturday, I have most of Saturday off. And I even invited you over, but no, you gotta work. How often do I get to use that line on somebody else? Normally people use that line on me. I get to use it on somebody else. But Saturday, they are doing a live New Japan Pro Wrestling show from LA. It's going to be on Access TV, which is one of your high definition channels. But before that, they're showing New Japan Pro Wrestling all day leading up to it. And the name of the special is called Bullet Club is Fine. And it's going to be all about the beginning, middle, and current problems of the faction known as the Bullet Club, which I'm wearing my Kenny Omega the Cleaner shirt. So I've got a full day of New Japan Pro Wrestling coming up there, Joe.
So you got that one for you.
Comic-wise, I got all caught up on X-Men Red. which is the team that Jean Grey is leading, and it is fascinating and good. There is a new form of Sentinel that is being spread, and it's very innovative and very interesting, and I'm 5 issues in, and I'm blown away by how good it is. I'm kind of sad that X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold are going away, but I'm really kind of starting to get into the X-Men. They're doing a really good job of turning these characters around and making it even more interesting. And then lastly, I actually did mention it, Black Goliath 2 through 5 are now available on Marvel Unlimited. I remember when I was a kid, I bought Black Goliath 5, not knowing it was the last issue. And by the way, Black Goliath number 5 was written by Chris Claremont in 1976. So I'm reading it going, wow, this is really cool. I really like this. Then you get to the end, it's like, last issue? Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Got that. So Tuesday night, I don't work. And it's pretty rare for me to have a night off the day before I have a day off. Because at the group home, they're desperate for people to work Saturday overnights and Friday overnights. So normally, even if I have a Saturday or a Sunday off, I have to sleep there and wake up at 6 in the morning and do stuff until either 7 or 8. But nope, on 4th of July, I get to sleep in. And 3rd of July, going to the movies. I've invited Joe, I've invited Dangerous Dan Moore, and Evelyn Ritchie. So if nobody shows up, I'm going to have fun. If you guys show up, I'm going to have fun. We can even stay out late. Like, 10, 11, 11:15.
You're out of control. I'm going to call your mom.
11:15, Joe. Well, believe it or not, kids, you have listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
Cool.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
You are not entitled to your own opinion. You are entitled to your own informed opinion. No one is entitled to be ignorant. Harlan Ellison. Hit some music.
I thought... I just lost it, and hopefully we can cut that out. Okay. But I know Corey's editing, and it will still be there. Anyway.
Oh, I'll save it for a drop.
You'll save it for a drop.